Good morning. We are here once again, Monday grades for week number 7. And, we had a lot of surprising games here, a lot of surprising teams just coming out of the woodwork and taking down the big favorites. And, the scoring was down this week, but we did have some good performances. We'll start in Cincinnati, excuse me, where Joe Burrow, A+ grade, 34 out of 42, completed 81% of his passes. Now, granted, they had Casey Hayward added to IR. AJ Terrell got hurt his hamstring. He left in week 6 with the same injury. He didn't play, but 481 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, 138.2 passer rating, an 11.5 yard per attempt average. He even added 3 carries for 20 yards and a touchdown on the ground. So by halftime, he had 344 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, and a perfect 158.3 passer rating. It was ridiculous. Another game, and there's no I gave Joe Burrow the A+, but I'm thinking twice about it. The reason that I didn't give Patrick Mahomes the A+, he did throw an interception. It was a stupid pass. He shouldn't have thrown it. We didn't see any of those from Joe Burrow, but Mahomes just went nuclear on the 49ers. 25 out of 34, 74% completion percentage. He passed for 423 yards, 3 touchdowns, the 1 pick, a 132.4 passer rating, 12.4 yards per attempt. That was the most from week 7. He completed 77% of his 13 second half attempts for 17.4 yards per attempt, 2 touchdowns, and a near perfect 157.9 passer rating. It's pretty close between the two. They both came away with the victory. I'm leaning Joe Burrow. Okay, and so at running back, there's no question about this one. Josh Jacobs. I mean, this guy has just been unbelievable this year, and it's got to be related to having a true number one, keeping teams from loading the box. 20 carries, 143 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns. He averaged 7.2 yards per attempt. He had 8 first downs. That was the most. 55% of his carries either went for a touchdown or a first down. He had 7 runs of 10+ yards. That's 35%. And he had 26 yards on his touchdowns, so that only accounts for 18% of his yardage. He also added 3 catches for 12 yards on 4 targets. The Raiders won 38-20. Yes, the Texans are a bad run defense, but Josh Jacobs was the equivalent of what we've seen from Joe Mixon last year and this year. During 2021, he has just been phenomenal this year. He has shot up the Dino rankings, and it's almost a guarantee that the the Raiders lock him up to a contract after this year. The way he's playing, Kenneth Walker in Seattle. Wow, I mean, this kid he's legit. So 23 carries, 168 yards, 2 touchdowns, averaged 7.3 yards per attempt. That 5 first downs, so 30% of his carries either went for a touchdown or a first down. He had 5 runs of 10+ yards, 22%. 86% of his yardage were from his 2 touchdowns. That's 51%. Seattle, man, they're looking good, but they're also taking themselves out of the QB race, the drafting a top QB race. So, it's looking more and more like Geno Smith may be the quarterback for the Seahawks for the foreseeable future. At receiver, we have Jamar Chase. So 48 routes, 11 targets. He gets the A+ this week. 8 catches, 130 yards, 2 touchdowns. So he had 4 first down receptions. That means that 75% of his receptions went for a touchdown or a first, 2.71 yards per route run, 16.3 yards per reception, 151.5 targeted passer rating. Burrow and Chase are just in fuego right now. They won that game 35-17. We're going to stick in Cincinnati because Tyler Boyd, he had a phenomenal performance as well. 38 routes, 9 targets. He had 8 catches, 155 yards, and a touchdown, 5 first downs, so 67% touchdown or first. He had 4.08 yards per route run, 19.4 yards per reception, and a 155.8 targeted passer rating. So DeAndre Hopkins, I struggled a little bit with this one because uh, a guy we're going to talk about that got a B. I thought about moving him up, but the volume wasn't there, and that's where Nuke coming to Arizona uh, off of his suspension, the impact when he's on the field, I feel like, and especially in this game where they won 42-34 of this over the Saints. The Saints secondary was all beaten up, and guys were either benched or hurt. But at the same time, the way Arizona played against Seattle and then losing Hollywood coming into this game. So just having Nuke on the field, I feel like he was responsible for this victory for Arizona. 32 routes, 14 targets. He had 10 catches, 103 yards on Thursday Night Football. So 4 first downs. He didn't score any touchdowns, but 29% of his receptions went for a first down. And there were possessions where Arizona went 3 and out, where all they did was target Nuke. That's how important he was to the offense. So 3.21 yards per route run, and team high 32 routes, by the way. 10.3 yards per reception, 92.3 targeted passer rating. It's nothing like what Boyd or Chase did, but at the same time, it was as important to his team. So for the B grades, I wanted to give PJ Walker an A, but he just didn't have the type of responsibility for yardage and scoring like Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes. But it's A minus worthy probably, but I'm going to go B here. 16 out of 22 passing, 73%. 177 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, 126.5 passer rating, 8.8 yards per attempt. I mean, they beat Tampa Bay 21-3. Who saw that coming? I mean, it was, and if we're being honest here, this was the best performance from a Carolina quarterback this year. So, I mean, we could really see a quarterback controversy even if Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield are healthy. I mean, Walker, if he plays like this, he's going to deserve to be the starter. All right. The Giants are 6-1. What is going on here? So Daniel Jones, he only completed 19 out of 30 attempts, 63%, 202 yards, 1 touchdown, 94 passer rating, a terrible, well, I'll say below average 6.7 yards per attempt. He doesn't get a B grade for that. His grade, like he has really looking at his season long production, his grade is going to be established through his legs because he had 11 carries, 107 yards, and a touchdown on the ground. So they beat Jacksonville 23-17. I really see the Giants as a pretender this year. They're not going to get very far in the playoffs, but this is just a night and day performance from this team after what we saw the past couple of years under Joe Judge. Okay, so Arizona, like I said, his impact on the entire roster really carried over to the other players. One of those was Eno Benjamin. So 12 carries, 92 yards, and a touchdown. He averaged 7.7 yards per attempt. It really highlights the importance of a true number one receiver to an offense because if without him, they're loading the box. Eno Benjamin's going for 12 and 20 right? So he also added a successful 2-point conversion carry. He had 5 first downs. So that means 50% of his carries went for a touchdown or a first. And he had 3 runs of 10 plus, which is 25%. He added 4 receptions on 5 targets for 21 yards. And Arizona scored 42 points. So, all right, this is a similar performance to the DeAndre Hopkins, and for let me just go through. So Derrick Henry, 30 carries, 128 yards. He only averaged 4.3 yards per attempt. It was nothing eye-opening. He had 7 first downs though, and he had 3 runs of 10 plus, which was 10%. He gained, and this is the reason why I bumped him to a B. He gained 27% of his yardage on the last 3 carries prior to Ryan Tannehill taking a knee. He did add 3 receptions on 3 targets for 10 yards. They won 19-0. It's not the type of King Henry performance that would obviously get him an A. Getting into the end zone would have bumped him up. That's how close he was. DJ Moore. Now, I didn't see this one coming. I haven't looked at the alignment to coverage percentages, but I did not watch this game yet, so it wasn't the first one that popped on my list. But so 23 routes, 10 targets, 7 receptions, 69 yards, and a touchdown. He had 3 first downs. 57% of his receptions went for a touchdown or a first. 3 yards per route run, 9.9 yards per reception, a 122.5 targeted passer rating. I want to see how much of that was collected in the coverage of Jamel Dean. That's the key here, because the other side of the field has been a complete vulnerability for that Tampa Bay defense. So I need to see that, because Jamel Dean's my guy. He's usually airtight coverage. So I definitely want to see that. Okay, going over to the guy that I almost flipped with Nuke for the A grade, Marquise Goodwin. So we lost Brees Hall yesterday. Looks like he could be out for the year. We lost David Njoku. Looks like high ankle sprain. Looks like he could be out for a few weeks. And we also lost DK Metcalf. Looks like he might be out for the year with a knee injury. Man, what a terrible day for fantasy. And Marquise Goodwin stepped in. I mean, should we get that excited? It's hard to. Okay, so he caught 4 passes for 67 yards, 2 touchdowns on 5 targets. He only ran 16 routes, though. That right there bumped him down to a B for me. I need to see the impact in the game wasn't there. And so he had 1 first down, but in addition to the 2 touchdowns, 75% touchdown or first, 4.19 yards per route run. So you got to consider a guy like Jamar Chase. His yards per route run is going to be lower, but he's also on the field, and a lot of his routes are just run throughs, where he's just carrying his coverage to get them out of the way to open up the underneath stuff for others. We don't see that with a guy like a Marquise Goodwin. He's the guy that's the underneath collecting the easier stuff while somebody else is opening up the stuff over the top. But he averaged 16.8 yards per reception and a perfect 158.3 targeted passer rating. He absolutely deserves a B, and Seattle won the game. So the biggest second half improvements, geez, I'm sitting here and I still cannot believe the Packers and the Buccaneers are 3-4. And the team that took down the Packers, Washington, just lost their quarterback. We may have another controversy here, because Taylor Heineke looked really good. And I'm not just talking good as in volume. I'm talking good as in efficiency and in attacking a really good secondary. So he was bad in the first half. Seven completions, 17 attempts, 41%, 39 yards. He did connect on a touchdown. He also threw an interception, a bad one. 44 passer rating, 2.3 yards per attempt. It was time to cross him off. He was getting benched for Sam Howell, and possibly by next week, right? No. Second half. And by the way, that interception, pick 6. Second half, though, he came out firing 13 out of 16, 81%, 162 yards. He completed, he connected with Terry McLaurin for a touchdown, 129.7 passer rating. That's a 66% improvement, and 10.1 yards per attempt. That's a 77% improvement. Now, Washington, they're not going to win the Super Bowl. They're not going to the NFC Championship, and I don't care who's healthy and who's hurt. They're just missing too many parts that they don't have on the roster or on IR or on the PUP list. They need a couple more drafts to get them there. But Washington is also 3-4. So if we're going to sit here and say, okay, but the Packers can still make the playoffs, but the Buccaneers, they can still make the playoffs, then we have to say that Washington can as well. And I don't care how much money Carson Wentz is getting paid. If Taylor Heinicke, if he wins every game as the starter, and then Carson Wentz comes back from his finger surgery, we have a controversy on our hands, and we'll see what happens. So the other just completely out of nowhere game from Carolina, Dante Foreman. Wow. I mean, I love this guy. This kid is, I mean, he deserves a featured role. He put together one of the finest rushing seasons in a Power 5 conference, at least a top 15 season for a running back. And it was just unbelievable what he did his final year at Texas. And then he tore his Achilles, but he looks so good. So first half, 2 carries, 4 yards, 2 receptions, 27 yards. He was playing second fiddle to Chuba Hubbard. However, in the second half, it was Dante Foreman, 13 carries, 114 yards. He played 54% of the snaps overall versus 46% for Chuba Hubbard. It's looking like there may be a change in that rotation. Really doesn't matter. It's going to be a rotation. It's more who's going to get the 60 and who's going to get the 40. It's looking like Foreman right now. And I think we saw last year with Tennessee, this guy can do it when he has that 60% on his side. I actually like Foreman here. And I mean, I'm definitely adding him wherever I can. Saquon Barkley. I mean, I was extremely worried about his injury history coming into this year, and I have 0% shares. I'm the one paying the price, right? So first half, 9 carries, 18 yards, 2 catches, 15 yards, average 2.0 yards per carry. Second half, 15 carries, 92 yards, 6.13 yards per carry. That's a 67% improvement. He caught 2 more balls, but for -2 yards. It wasn't a great game for him, but went over 100 yards again, and they won 6-1 for the Giants. Another guy I mean, I was right about through week 5, and then week 6 and 7, making me look bad. Juju Smith-Schuster. So first half, he ran 21 routes, 4 targets. He had 3 yards after the catch, 1.43 yards per route run, and 10 yards per reception. So second half, though, and that he caught 3 balls for 30 yards. Second half, 12 routes, only 12. He caught 4 balls for 94 yards and a touchdown. And it was 4 targets again and 53 yards after the catch. That's 56% of his yardage, 7.83 yards per route run. That's 82%. That's an 82% improvement over his 1.43 from the first half. 23.5 yards per reception. 48% of his yardage was on his 45-yard catch and run touchdown. But at the end of the first half, he also had a touchdown nullified by a penalty. It was a low block from Jerick McKinnon at the end of the first half. And like I said, the Chiefs won 44-23. So Terry McLaurin, first half, 18 routes, 1 catch, 6 yards, 0.33 yards per route run, 6 yards per reception. Second half, 18 routes, He had 4 catches, 67 yards, and a touchdown on 4 targets, 3.72 yards per route run. That's a 91% improvement, and 16.7 yards per reception. He looked a lot better this week with Heineke than he did at any point with Carson Wentz. They definitely have a connection. So Donovan Peoples-Jones, he's going to be the first guy on this list that lost first half 14 routes. He caught 1 pass for 2 yards on 1 target, 0.14 yards per route run. Second half, 18 routes, caught 5 passes for 69 yards on 5 targets, 3.83 yards per route run. That's a 96% improvement. And his production is not indicative of his play. The Browns run the ball so much that it takes being down for him to start getting some targeting, because he's also, but it may go up. It's also, he's working behind Njoku and Cooper. But like I said, Njoku's out. We'll see how the targets are distributed, though. If it's going to be, if he's going to have to deal with anybody else. But right now he could be the number 2 receiver for Cleveland. So, all right, let's get down into the D grades. And the first, Ryan Tannehill, he left the game with an ankle injury, or he hurt his ankle during the game. He's going to be highly questionable for next week. But I definitely account for that. But he looks like the quarterback from the first year that he took over as starter. And that's the one where his coaching staff didn't trust him to throw the ball. And he was basically a glorified handoff artist. So 13 out of 20, 65%, 132 passing yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. He had an 83.8 passer rating, 6.6 yards per attempt. And then we're usually okay with that if he gives us 50 yards and a touchdown on the ground. No, we got 4 carries for 6 yards. He did next to nothing, and they won that game 19-10. And that just, it just underlines why Derrick Henry got a B for. He had 130 yards, but he was basically the offense for the Titans there. So Tom Brady, I'm not in a position to nitpick with the greatest of all time. So I'm just going to go through this line real quick. 32 out of 49, 65% completion percentage, 290 passing yards, and that's where the good ends. 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 81.2 passer rating, 5.9 yards per attempt. I can't remember the last time I saw that. CJ Henderson left the game with an injury. But JC Horn, this is just he may be one of the most significant individual impacts to an opposing offense in the entire NFL. He could be on the fast track to a Jalen Ramsey type of impact and reputation. Don't forget that. It's something to think about going forward when we're thinking about starting quarterbacks and wide receivers or receivers against the Panthers. He's taken away essentially half of the field, and it's unbelievable. So Jonathan Taylor, none of the numbers are just going to be like, oh, that's just so bad, so deserves a D. But think about where you drafted him, what you traded to get him, or how much you paid to roster him in DFS. 10 carries, 58 yards. That's 5.8 yards per attempt. It's not terrible. 4 first downs, so that's 40%. He had 2 runs of 10 plus. That's 20%. Still, it's not terrible. And he added 7 receptions, but only 27 yards. So it was like a little over 3. It's nothing absolutely awful. I'll give him a D plus. How about that? it just wasn't good and it didn't help anybody. So yeah, they lost 19-10. Didn't help the Colts either. Cortland Sutton. So I don't want to say I knew this one going in, but I knew that the odds were going to be against him here in this matchup. And yeah, it didn't work out for him. 43 routes, 9 targets. He caught 3 for 23 yards. He had 1 first down, 0.53 yards per route run, 7.7 yards per reception, a 42.4 targeted passer rating. I didn't even like him this week with Russell Wilson under center. But I mean, Brett Rippon, you can knock him all you want, but the guy airs it out. And none of it was caught by Sutton. He tried. He tried to get him the ball. It didn't work out. So yeah, the F grades. I think we have to go directly to Matt Ryan, and he's the only quarterback I'm giving an F this week. So he completed 75% of his 44 attempts for 243 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 bad interceptions. He had a 76.2 passer rating. He averaged 5.5 yards per attempt. Unlike Brady, that is something that we're seeing a lot more out of Matt Ryan these days. He had a pick 6 to kick off quarter 2, and he led the Colts to 0 points by halftime. They lost that game 19-10, even though they outscored the Titans 10-6 in the second half. It doesn't matter. I mean, you got to do more than 1 touchdown for him to give you any credit for something like that. So Melvin Gordon, 11 carries, 33 yards. He averaged 3 yards per attempt, obviously. 0 first downs, 0 runs of 10 plus. If it wasn't for, I believe it was a 14 or a 15-yard catch, everything he did was 3 yards or less the whole game. I mean, we're talking, that's not even replacement level. We're talking, I can't believe he's still playing with the way, with his results. I don't care what his contract is. He needs to be sitting on the bench. There's no reason for him to be in a game right now. And he's a big reason why Denver is 2-5. I cannot believe this guy is still starting or still playing featured snaps. Leonard Fournette, so he's had a good year, and this is a down week for the entire offense. Evans and Godwin, they had their receptions, but not much else. But Fournette, he didn't get that far. 8 carries, 19 yards, 2.4 per attempt, 2 first downs, 0 runs of 10 plus, 2 receptions, 7 yards. That's where he's been able to raise his floor. Not this week. Moving on. All right, these are the 3 that F minus all the way down. Michael Gallup, I couldn't be more disappointed in, but for some reason, his snap percentage went down. So I'm wondering if it's not injury related, then it's F minus to the nth degree here. 19 routes, 2 targets, didn't catch anything, had spike level 39.6 targeted passer rating. Yeah, they won. He did nothing to help that. So I have co-rookie face plants of the week this week. Romeo Dobbs, I think. I hear it both ways on TV, so it's not entirely my fault. I need to look it up though. Team high 31 routes, 4 targets, no catches, spike level TPR. Ooh, and it hurts because I know I'm not alone in saying I started him in a couple of leagues, so it hurts. It does looking at that 0. Then we have Drake London, and the last time I missed the last 2 weeks, health related of Monday grades. The week that I did it prior, Drake London was the face plant of the week. So it's not looking good. He started out looking so good. And the thing that really hurts for him is that Marcus Mariota is not playing bad football. He's playing good football. It's like he's hit his sophomore slump in, like a 3-4 game stretch of his rookie year. But 16 routes, 1 target, 1 catch, 9 yards, no first downs, obviously 0.56 yards per route run. Yeah. And it was a game played from a negative script. It's unfortunate. I really want to see, and it's not like Kyle Pitts is playing that much better. And he didn't have a good game this week. I thought he would have a good game considering Cincinnati was down Logan Wilson. That's what happens. Nobody can predict what happens on Sunday, any given Sunday, right? And, we can go into a matchup and we can look at the percentages and we can say, okay, this guy has the potential to win here. This guy has the potential to be ghosted here. And we can work off of that information to try to find our highest upside plays each week. But that's it. Nobody knows the answers, but we're going to try to find them. It's always easier looking back as the Monday morning quarterback. And that's what this show's about. So I'll catch you guys next week with some more grades.